Hi, folks. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Greg Sanchez. I'm the owner of Home Instead Senior Care here in Pasadena, as well as the Home Instead Senior Care franchise in the Monrovia area. I want to welcome you to our first in a series that I hope lasts for a long time called Kickstart Your Healthcare Career Through Caregiving. And what brought about this topic is really my personal journey of starting as a family caregiver and utilizing those skill sets to grow my career in the healthcare field. So I thought it would be a great topic to kind of share that, caregiving is a wonderful career. By the way, we are hiring here at both Pasadena, Monrovia, and both Pasadena and Monrovia locations. So feel free to go to our website at www.homeinstead.com/479. And I believe the link is in the chat. So let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about me. I come from a very large Hispanic family. I was very blessed to be able to be the family caregiver for my grandparents, both who are still alive, and I'm still their family caregiver. They're 96 and 95 respectively. I'm very blessed to have my maternal grandparents, both of them. And during my college years, I moved in with them, and it was kind of a win-win for both of us, because they were still active, but they still needed some help around the house, and it was kind of nice to be able to share family history and learn a lot about my grandparents. Excuse me. And and at the same time I was able to help them do stuff, and they were to help me finish my college career. But I think it was the lessons I learned as being a family caregiver that really helped mold me into the person I am today, and really helped facilitate my educational endeavors as well as my career in the pharmaceutical industry, and then ultimately as an owner of a Home Instead Senior Care franchise. So that's a little bit about me, and we have a series of questions that we're going to be asking future participants in this web series, Kickstart Your Healthcare Career Through Caregiving. So the first question basically for all of them, and I'm sorry I'm reading them here, is what was your path to caregiving? So as I said, my path to caregiving was being the companion for my grandparents. This was way back in the 90s. I mean, like I said, they were still very active, but they were losing their abilities. They weren't able to do as much as they used to. So, I'd help clean up the house, prepare meals, do some laundry, and in return, I was able to go ahead and live with them. As they've aged over the years, I mean, now they're in their 90s, they definitely need a lot more assistance, and the family has come together to really support their personal care needs, as well as just their mental stimulation. So I would say that my grandparents definitely were the reason why I moved from the pharmaceutical industry into home care. So that was my path to caregiving. Now, next question is, what about caregiving did you enjoy the most? And I would actually have to say that the best part of being a family caregiver was the time that I have been able to spend with my grandparents, learning their history, understanding where I come from. And I think that has been the most enjoyable part. The actual act of caregiving, the enjoyment part from that perspective would basically be cooking for grandma and grandpa and actually getting their reviews, or in my grandpa's case, my critiques. I can tell you right now that my grandfather is 96, and I barely learned, and I'm going to be 46 this year, I barely learned how to make his cup of coffee. And it's not hard. He drinks Folgers Instant. So, but there was a lot of that joy of accomplishing something over the last 30 some odd years to go ahead and make his cup of coffee has really been one of the highlights of just providing care. And just not to mention the fact that the sense of accomplishment and the fact that I know that I have positively contributed to them maintaining their independence at home. I think that has been probably the most beneficial thing that I can think of. Then, of course, the next question would be, what was my least favorite part? Well, my least favorite part of caregiving was probably the personal care. The cleanup part was never fun. So that's still, I would say back then I would get grossed out. But, I was able to refrain from sharing my how I felt about it. So but that was probably, I don't think anyone enjoys picking up poo or doing stuff like that. And even at that age, I mean, they were still active, but at the same time, I did have to clean a dirty bathroom now and again. So that wasn't my favorite part. Next question was, what about caregiving did you enjoy? Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong one. Can you share 2 examples of skills or knowledge that you acquired as a caregiver? You know what? I think this is the most important part for me for this series, is to really get people to understand that even though my example of being a family caregiver wasn't working for a company like Home Instead, I did learn a lot. And I think the skill sets that I've learned over the course of time, particularly time management. I mean, I have to get myself ready. I mean, a lot of parents have that skill set already with time management. I mean, you've got to take your kids to school, you got to make it to work, you got to make sure they have food, so on and so forth. It's the same thing, being able to go ahead and juggle multiple tasks. That in and of itself is a really awesome trait that a lot of employers are looking for. So to take a moment and think back on their personal experiences and say, hey, you know what, that is applicable to a job. Time management is a good one. Another one is that I would say another skill that I learned was how to listen. We tend to go ahead and not take the moment to just stop and intently listen. So really active listening, I learned that as being a caregiver, because I can tell you that my grandfather has told the same stories to me for the last 35 years, and I know them verbatim, but even though I've heard them multiple times, by me being an active listener, I'm able to go ahead and pick up on subtle changes. And what I've learned as a family caregiver is about cognitive decline, so it's memory loss. And what I notice a lot of times with the seniors that I work with now was based off of what I've learned from my grandparents is that your short-term memory tends to be the first thing you lose. It's your long-term memory that really is a good gauge of true memory decline. So when Grandpa's story about World War II starts changing and morphing into another story from when he was a young man after the war, then I have to start questioning how is he doing from a cognitive perspective, because now we're seeing changes in his long-term memory. So those skills, time management, being an active listener, I really was able to hone those skills as a caregiver, and which kind of leads into my next question: how did you apply those skills or knowledge to achieving your current position? So I didn't start as a Home Instead Senior Care franchise owner. I actually have a PhD in chemistry. So another story for another day on how I got from there. But I think what those skill sets taught me was really how to be able to function with so many different things on work, as well as my academic endeavors. And that really helped me through my undergraduate and then ultimately into my graduate work, and allowed me to finish that and then move into the pharmaceutical industry. And I was in the pharmaceutical industry for almost 15 years, first at Gilead Sciences and then at Allergan. And you know what? I look back to the time that I had with my grandparents and, having to research their drugs, their medications that they were taking. And that really inspired me to go ahead and go into the pharmaceutical industry because I wanted to understand how these drug products actually worked. And, it was a joy while I was doing it. And I attribute my time management skills, my work ethic, that's another thing I learned during caregiving, as well as my ability to actively listen, to truly be able to identify scientifically what was going on and how best to address it. So those skills from 20 years before as a caregiver truly helped me achieve my career goals at the time. And I can now comfortably tell you, now that I've transitioned from the pharmaceutical industry into home care, well, every day is caregiving here. So really having a positive understanding of the dynamic of living with seniors, of working with seniors, has really helped me create a program here at home Instead Pasadena and Monrovia that really resonates with our clients and with our employees. We really focus on the guiding principles that we have here at home Instead really come from my lessons learned when being my grandparents' family caregiver. So that is how I use my knowledge and my skills in my current role. Last question why do I write questions that are so hard? I don't know. If you had to use one word to describe your journey to your current position, what would it be and why? Why did I write that question? I don't know. One word to describe my journey, I'd have to say enlightening. Every step of from when I was my grandparents' family caregiver back in the early 90s to now being their caregiver now, has really enabled me to think about things in a different light, to be able to go ahead and really share my heart and understand really understand the nuances of what it means to be a family caregiver to aging loved ones and be able to apply that in the business that I currently have now. I think that enlightening, very eye-opening is definitely the one word. And I wouldn't change anything. I think that I'm where I need to be right now. And I think God sends us down these paths and as long as we're learning, even if we make mistakes, as long as we learn from them and grow, I think that that really helps. So that's it. Oh no, just kidding. There's a few more questions. I thought it was going to get off easy. All right. The next question that we have is, what advice do you have for current caregivers interested in kickstarting their healthcare career? Well, current caregiver or even prospective caregiver, I think that especially in home care, we learn bedside manner. We learn how to actively listen to the fastest growing patient population in the country. Every day, 10,000 people become 65 or older. We are in that baby boomer era now. I mean, my parents, my mom will probably get mad for saying this, but she's gonna be 70, or she's gonna be 7. Oh yeah, let me not say anymore. Anyway, my parents are getting up there, and I think being able to work with your family members and then translate that into a career, really enables one to understand, like I said, bedside manner, really be able to actively listen to our senior population, and just really, it helps us to understand if we truly have the heart for care. I mean, if anything from COVID-19 has taught us is that our healthcare frontline workers are not doing this because of the money. They're doing it because they know that every day they make a difference in someone's life, and their work actually will hopefully get someone from a very bad state of illness to a very good state of illness and return them safely to their loved ones, for the better. So I think you learn those things as a caregiver. You learn those traits, and it actually probably helps that you learn them as a caregiver instead of having to go to school for an AA for nursing and then realize, oh my God, I don't like people. I think, and that's actually one of the things that we promote here at Home Instead when we're interviewing is that, we have a lot of prospective LVNs, CNAs, individuals who are interested in growing their career within the healthcare field, RNs, and they take a moment to reflect and they're like, oh, I think I like computers better. And they make better decisions because they actually got to try it. And then some people just love it and they stay in the home care industry. I mean, we have a lot of caregivers who raised through the ranks to be key players here in our office and are currently acting as their roles vary from scheduling caregivers all the way to being case managers, and in some cases even managers of groups within our company. So there are lots of opportunities within home care. So whether you're going to take what you learn and move on to the next level and become an awesome, compassionate provider of medical care, or you stay as a home care aide because you just feel that you're doing God's work with the aging population, that is totally fine. So that is my advice for current caregivers who are interested in kickstarting. We've got some questions from the audience because we are live. So let me go ahead and start off with a few that were presented earlier. So do you need a degree or certificate to be a caregiver? No, you do not. Caregiving is classified as non-medical in-home care. We provide what are called activities of daily living: bathing, dressing, feeding, companionship. So, really focusing on the physical and cognitive needs of our clients. So being that person that walks with the senior and makes sure that they don't fall. That would be an example of physical, supporting a senior's physical needs. Cognitive, mental stimulation. I can tell you right now that my grandmother also has a caregiver in addition to all the family caregivers, and I really believe that it has been so helpful for her to keep sharp because she's actually having to have regular conversations, and especially right now with COVID, she can't go anywhere. So having that external interaction with someone who's not a family member has been really good. You can tell that she's still really sharp. So it's been really a blessing. So those are the cognitive and physical things that we focus on from companionship in caregiving, as well as those activities of daily living. I always tell our new caregivers that it's not a question of you having the experience, it's more of a question of you having a giving heart, and that you're willing to go ahead and provide that comfort and support that our seniors need at home. It's also about nutrition and reminding seniors, hey, it's time to eat. Let's go ahead and make you something good to eat. You don't have to be a great cook. I mean, if you can make a sandwich and open a juice, then there you go. I mean, we have some caregivers who are some great cooks, and definitely their clients love them for it. And then we also have, caregivers who are there to remind people to take their medicine. Medication compliance is so important. We're not administering medication, but we are definitely reminding someone, hey, it's time to take that 9 o'clock medication, it's time to take that 12 o'clock, so on and so forth, because that's one of the things that we see with seniors. They don't, unless they are actively participating with someone, they tend to forget to eat, to maintain hygiene, to take their medications. So those are some of the things. So absolutely not, you don't need a degree or certification to become a home care aide. There are lots of great programs through many adult schools. Monrovia Adult School has one, the Pasadena Unified program, the Twilight program out of Pasadena High School. They have a great home care aide program that gives you some additional tips and tricks of the trade and really provides you with some good foundation. Not that we don't do that. I mean, Home Instead, we're very blessed to offer all new hires 16 hours of training when they walk in the door, and then ample training afterwards. All they got to do is ask. So training is there, and so definitely no need for a degree or certification. Next one is, what types of entry-level jobs are there in the healthcare industry? Yeah, that's a great question. So home care would be a starting point. If you're looking for hospital work or work at a clinic, you would start with a medical assistant. Usually is at as an outpatient, or an inpatient would be more of like well, they do have medical assistants there, but you can also look at a certified nursing assistant. Those do require some level of training, and you do have to be certified. So those can be found at local community colleges like Pasadena Community College or Citrus. You can also go ahead and look to various programs. There are lots of great grant-related programs where you can get free education to go to a CNA program. Just talk to your local counselors at your local adult schools for more information on that. So those are the entry-level roles. Now those are more patient care. In healthcare, entry-level roles there's tons of work in healthcare. I started back in the early 90s, right out of high school, as a chart room clerk at Kaiser Permanente over there off of Imperial in Downey. And that was my first touch of healthcare. I mean, so entry-level jobs like that, I mean, nutrition, basically working in the kitchen, things like that. Those are all entry-level opportunities, and all you need to go is to your local hospital or even Kaiser's website and look for careers there. There's lots of great opportunities for entry level, and then you can make a decision on where you want to go. A big growing industry right now is healthcare information technology. So if you have an interest in computers and you don't like people, but you can still work in healthcare. So lots of different opportunities out there for entry level positions in the healthcare field. Does getting first aid, AED, CPR certification help? Absolutely, and we offer that free to all of our Home Instead employees. I actually am certified to teach adult first aid, CPR, and AED. Now, first aid is broken into basic life support, BLS, which is what we recommend for individuals that are medical professionals. So individuals who have a certification through or a license through the Department of Public Health, they would need to take a BLS first aid class, or you can take what we call our community first aid CPR AED class, offered all over through American Red Cross or other companies. They do help, and it's really good to know because it provides you confidence if there's ever an emergency situation, and it's a really good skill to have. So I strongly encourage it as a certified trainer of first aid, CPR, AED. Moving on now, let's see here. There were some questions related to first aid, CPR, AED certification. It's great to have. Yes, you should always go ahead and do recertification. As a home instead employee, you don't have, there is no cost, but usually those classes range anywhere from $50 to $120 depending on where you take it. Does being a family caregiver help you get hired in the caregiving field? Absolutely. We talked about that and gave you some examples. What if you don't have enough money to obtain a degree in the medical field? Okay, so great, we talked about that. Again, reach out to your local adult school. There are tons of different programs out there that have state money behind them that are usually covered under the workforce development programs here in the state of California that would have opportunities for you to go ahead and get starting off at a CNA. When you go above CNA to an LVN, a lot of those LVN programs are paid, you do have to pay for. I would look to your local community colleges to see if they have programs. It's a lot cheaper than going to some of these private schools. So definitely take advantage of your community colleges and what they offer. And my understanding is that they're still teaching the classes, and the classes are still in the technical or the practical components are still in person. Let's see here. Do most people stay with caregiving? And what do they do after caregiving? Well, a lot of people, we do have some folks that do stay in caregiving because, again, caregiving, if it's truly a calling for you, you love doing it. And I know that there's a lot of people, and a lot of people supplement their income with home care, with home care positions. I mean, we have a couple of folks who have different jobs. We have one person who works at the library part-time and then works here. We have another person who works for a small startup and then is supplementing their income here by working evenings. So yeah, caregiving is extremely flexible, and Home Instead isn't the only home care company. I mean, it's my favorite, but yeah, there's tons of them, and really, if you're looking for a company to work for, ask questions. So home care, I mean, think about it. We've got Right at Home, Visiting Angels, Comfort Keepers, Home Instead, Home Care Assistants. They're all different companies, 24-hour home care. But I think ultimately, asking questions during your interview process about, what are the benefits, what are the flexibility in hours, get examples. Don't just take someone's word for it. Ask for examples when you're having those conversations. So then that way you can truly gauge whether it's just talking points or they actually live their values. So that's an important one. Where can you move up after being a caregiver? Again, the sky's the limit. You learn a lot and you can translate all those skill sets into other positions. I mean, I've had 2 caregivers over the past few years. One of them was a caregiver and he went into law enforcement. There was another caregiver who utilized their caregiver skills and actually went into criminal justice. So, you don't have to stay in the healthcare field with caregiving. These are the skills that you learn are transferable to several different types of employment opportunities out there. It's really about the skill or the knowledge that you've picked up and then how you go ahead and leverage it to support what you want to do for the future. What does your positions entail? So the position that we have that entails, like we have caregiving positions. We have growth opportunities within caregivers. So caregiver level 1, level 2, level 3, and then lead caregivers. I mean, there's a lot, and we can go into a whole different side on that, but yeah, there's lots of growth opportunity in caregiving. But ultimately, those skills are always going to be transferable, and it's really how you present them when you're looking at different job opportunities. All right, I've got some additional questions right now. How did you handle the emotions from seeing your loved one's age? If I'm honest, I'm going to say wine and food. But in all honesty, you know what? We need to, aging is a part of life. We need to go ahead and just acknowledge that eventually we're all going to pass. I mean, unless pharmaceuticals come up with something greater, but I think ultimately we're all gonna pass away. And I know that we all address aging and death differently, but I think what it's done by watching my loved ones age and really now being an integral part of that process, it's really opened my eyes to planning for the future, to consider, what am I going to do at retirement? Who's going to take care of me when I'm old? All those kinds of things that makes you think. But emotionally, I think that it's one thing when someone passes away abruptly or unexpectedly, heart attack or some kind of tragic car accident or something like that. It's another thing to know that a person that you love in their 80s, 90s, whatever it might be, 70s, had a full life, and they had a family, and they had, and it really makes you appreciate the gift of that longevity and that gift that they give you every day. So I think it's really, emotionally, it fills me with joy. It really does. All right, how did you feel being a caregiver to your relatives? Was it more difficult? You know what? I'd say no. If anything, for me personally, it wasn't. I think that there's a lot of schools of thought. For example, doctors don't like to be doctors to their family members. Some of them don't. But I think for me, it's really about respect and boundaries. It's really about getting people to understand, I still see you as my mom, or I still see you as my grandfather, a father figure in my life, someone who had authority over me for many years. And I respect you as an adult. And I'm going to educate you and try to encourage you to do X, Y, and Z so that you can be healthy and happy at home as you age. So really, is it difficult? It's not more difficult. It might be more difficult for the aging family member because there's a lot of embarrassment. I mean, you think about the individual who was so independent and, and now all of a sudden they need you to go ahead and pull up their pants or give them a bed bath or feed them. I mean, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of anger and frustration. And when my family members lash out as I'm providing care, you know what, I have to take a step back and say, this isn't coming from a place of anger against me, it's anger against the situation that they're currently in. So I always tell people, think about if you were really sick or you broke your arm and you used to be so carefree and you do whatever you want, and now all of a sudden you're just locked down and you can't do it, how frustrating that is. Imagine being like that every single day of your life. That's so I have to take a moment and reflect on that and then move forward. All right, what do you find the most gratifying in caregiving? The fact that I am able to go ahead and allow someone to continue living with grace and dignity for one more day. I think that is what I find most gratifying, is that I've helped someone do that. Let's see here. How do you handle difficult clients with grooming and getting them into the shower? My grandpa never wants to shower. He always makes it a challenge. You know what? So does mine. I think that it's always about choice and it's about options. It's about it's not do you want, it's we are going to take a shower. Would you like to take a shower now or in an hour and a half? So you're not necessarily forcing them. Really, if we think about it, a lot of it comes to playing, I wouldn't say playing mental games, but I would definitely say that it's really about taking a moment to ask ourselves, we have a senior loved one who was always independent and able to do everything they needed to do, and now they have to ask you to help them go to the bathroom. There's a dignity factor there. There's a challenge with that loss of independence. So in order for me to give back some of that independence, we provide choice. Choice gives the impression of independence. Ultimately, am I going to get them in the shower? Yeah. But I'm giving them a choice of when they want to do it. So I think choice is important. That kind of helps ease it. If it's really about, I don't want to take a shower, then, let's think about alternatives to showering. How about, a bed bath? Or how about, let's go ahead and give you a washcloth with soap. And then you wash yourself in the areas that you need to the most, and then we give you a fresh washcloth with water on it, and then you wipe off the soap, and that works out really well too. So it's being creative, and not necessarily that you don't take no for an answer, but you identify, really it's about the root cause of why they don't want to do something. Is it a question of being embarrassed? I can tell you the first time that I gave my grandfather a shower, he was embarrassed. He's like, you're seeing me naked. So it's really about providing that respect and, creating a place of comfort. Even when I'm providing a bed bath, I always make sure that there are towels on top of their private areas. So then that way, that there's some respect there, and, a little bit of dignity that they feel, because at least they're not like completely naked and feeling, so vulnerable. You provide them with that opportunity. The first time I gave my grandfather a shower, he wore his boxers the entire time. That's totally fine. At the end of it, he pulled them off. He finished taking a shower, and that was it. I mean, and then I just kind of handed the towel from the backside. Really, sometimes, depending on the senior's abilities, it's really about understanding their capabilities and whether they're able to go ahead and have the strength for balance and staying in the shower safely. And other times it's really about just understanding where that angst is coming from. So take a moment and think about that and do an assessment and be creative. It never hurt. I mean, the first time I gave him a bed bath, I literally put trash bags on the bed first and then covered everything with towels. You can watch the YouTube videos. It's really what works for you in the circumstance. All right, last question. Well, no, there's more. Oh, wow. You guys are going to keep me on here, and we're already 37 minutes into it. All right, what is the most popular way that Home Instead receives new clients? Direct contact, hospitals. With home care is not like, so first of all, home care is not like, it's not like Kaiser or Blue Cross. It's not covered under Medicare. Home care is private pay. Unfortunately, our Medicare programs do not cover non-medical and home care. There's a difference between home health, which is nursing staff coming in and providing wound care or, IVs or whatever. Home care is really about, those activities of daily living, and it's so unfortunate that our Medicare programs don't have home care incorporated into them. God willing, one day they do, because then it would be a lot easier for families. But what we usually do is, some of it's through some of it through hospitals. Most of the time it's usually interactions with hospice, home health, medical providers. It's really about getting the word out and making sure that people understand that, hey, you know what, this resource is out there. Before I owned Home Instead Senior Care, I didn't know that this existed. I mean, in all honesty, you don't know that these types of services exist until you absolutely need them, and then you're rushing to figure it out. So that's an example of learning from being a family caregiver is if I'm ever in that situation, I know that I have resources external to my family to help me achieve the care that I need. All right, here we go. Next set. how can you juggle being a full-time and also making time to be a part-time caregiver for your grandparents? Well, you know what? Guess what? Well, I don't have kids, so that definitely helps. But I know people who have kids, their own grandkids, and they're taking care of their parents and their grandparents. Talk about multi-generational family. You know what? It's really about prioritizing, and it's really about that trait that I learned in caregiving, which is time management. Am I tired at the end of the day? Yeah, I am. But you know what? I take that time. I sleep very well. I knock out like that. But you know, I take a moment to think about, and as I'm driving from my grandparents back home or from work to wherever, you know, I can take a moment to reflect and think about, you know what, it's going to be a lot different when they're gone, and at least I know that I did my part to make their final time here on Earth as comfortable as they possibly could be. So yeah, it's hard to juggle, but you know, people do it every day. And you know, and I think that's what we have to take a moment and think about. It's like I said, you get thrusted into caring for your aging loved ones. It's not something you expect. I mean, you could be with your family, you know, on vacation, and next thing you know, you get a call from the hospital that your mom slipped and fell and she's in the emergency room and broke her hip. And now you're having to worry about your family plus your mom, and you know, it is a juggle, but you know, knowing that you have resources, tons of resources like Home Instead, out there to help you, I think it makes life a lot easier. I think so for those of you who need information on how to, you know, support a senior loved one while you have family at home and work, you can reach out. There's great resources at your local senior centers. They have, you know, support. They have social workers that will help kind of navigate you and point you into the direction of the resources that you need assistance with. All right. What is your methodology for assessing the ever-changing needs of your client? Well, that's a great, this is why we have case management. Case management, we actually here at Home Instead, Pasadena and Monrovia, we hire skilled case managers. So we have licensed social workers, another great career field in healthcare, and we also have gerontologists, people who went to school to study the process of aging. And so those folks are the ones who kind of help do regular quality checks on our clients, so that way we can evaluate and then changes to that non-medical plan of care. The ones who really are the bellwether or the canary in the coal mine are the caregivers. I mean, the caregiver notices that when they first started with Mrs. Jones, they were walking around the block every day, and over the last few months, Mrs. Jones isn't even able to get down to the driveway. So our caregivers know that they can call our office and talk to one of the case managers and have them come out and do a reassessment, and then the case manager will then work with the family to identify whether they need to go to the doctor, or maybe it's just a question of needing durable medical equipment like a cane or a walker, and those are the kinds of things that our case managers help with. All right, how do you retain good caregivers, good quality caregivers? At Home Instead, we offer a really good compensation package. I mean, right now we're on average above probably anywhere from 15 to 30% above the LA County minimum wage. We offer health, dental, and vision, 401k with a 4% match, paid vacation, paid sick, paid COVID leave. We offer merit increases based off of performance. You know, these are some of the questions I was kind of mentioning earlier on when you're evaluating who to work for. Ask about these things. Do you offer paid vacation? Do you offer health care? What do you offer? Do you offer training? If they don't offer health care, they don't offer, at least if they offer training, and we're not talking about, oh, here's a YouTube video, watch that. No, we're talking about hands-on training. Do they have people in their office that can help teach you some of these skills? I mean, I just got my second COVID shot today. COVID vaccine. So far, so good. And I was talking to a young lady who is in front of me on the line, and she is a caregiver for a competitor down in in the South Bay area. And she was telling me, she would walk into situations and she'd like, I call the office and they're like, we'll deal with it. I was like, no, that's not. And I told her, well, that's not how we do it at home. Instead, we provide you with the resources that you need to be successful. We don't want you to, go out there and get hurt or hurt the client. For us, it's really about making sure that you're out there representing the Home Instead brand as one of the quality caregivers that we hire. So that's how we retain good caregivers, is we provide them with the resources they need to be successful, as well as a competitive compensation package that includes all those different types of benefits. All right. On average, how many clients and caregivers does your agency have? It really, my agency, so let's just talk about agencies in general. I mean, home care agencies, if they're startups, can be, 5 clients and maybe 8 caregivers. I mean, it really just depends on the business. I mean, there are some huge organizations out there. We're talking about like 500 clients and like 1,000 caregivers. We're nowhere near that, but we're nowhere near, 5 clients and 8 caregivers. But we do have, we are hiring. We are hiring a lot, particularly for individuals for weekends, because yes, seniors still need help on the weekends. In the evenings, we're hiring for evening positions as well as overnights. Now, FYI, our overnight caregiving shifts are from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. the next day, and they're awake shifts. They're not sleeping shifts. So here at Home Instead, we're very particular about that, because why would a family pay money out of pocket for someone to sleep? They really need you there because mom's at a wanderer and decides she's going to go take a walk in the middle of the night. So you need to be awake to make sure that you can get her back to bed, or even sitting there watching TV. The other big one is fall risks. We have overnight shifts because clients get up and go to the bathroom and forget they can't walk. And next thing you know, they're falling over and breaking a hip, and we don't want that. So all of our overnight graveyard shifts are awake shifts. You have to be awake. You cannot fall asleep there. So yeah, we have all sorts of shifts available. Again, we're hiring for individuals who want to work at least 15 to 40 hours a week, and I'm proud to say that right now we are definitely hiring all shifts, predominantly those evenings and weekends and the overnights. And we can do a whole other session on caregivers, whether they're male or female. Caregiving tends to predominantly be female, but we are seeing an increase in male caregivers because, there's a lot of older men who need help, and they would prefer not having a lady help them and having a guy help them because they want to, talk about guy stuff, or they need help with guy things. So, I think ultimately caregiving is in conclusion, because I think my producer here has finished with all my questions. So in conclusion, I would say that look forward to our next Kickstart Your Caregiving Career, Kickstart Your Home Care Career. One more time. See, this is live. Kickstart Your Healthcare Career Through Caregiving. We are going to go ahead and bring in an LVN who's actually working on her RN, who was a former Home Instead caregiver who raised up through the ranks and actually became a case manager before she left us to go work on in the healthcare field, in the actual medical side, and is now working on her RN. And we're scheduling her hopefully for the March, so first week of March. And then we're looking to bring in some additional folks, really to highlight the fact that there are so many folks out there who started off either really young or mid-career in caregiving, and then translated those skill sets into something new and exciting. So we'll be doing those shortly. So again, Dr. Greg Sanchez, owner of Home Instead Senior Care, thanking you so much for your time and wishing you all the best. For more information about Home Instead, we've got our link in the chat. So again, thank you so much, and have a great night. God bless.